Hi, this is Jerry Kurth to skim over a slide set which describes the Marsh Creek Drainage system. This is the once over lightly version. We'll do it in about 10 minutes. Please adjust your speakers, as they say, since the audio will do the skimming over some of the more detailed and geeky slide content. This is the outline of what we're about to cover. The history of the development is kind of important because each unit has an independent drainage system. There were 17 units developed, and when you're thinking drainage, it's useful to think in units when it comes to Marsh Creek. The roads and drainage maps are also is what was used to put this together. Both the county and the St. Johns County Water Management, St. Johns River Water Management District reviewed the plans and approved them. So both places are sources for maps and information. It's important to differentiate between swales and gutters and curbs. The units 1 through 3 were drained by swales on the side of the road, and then the rest of the development used curbs and gutters, which are obviously simpler to manage and maintain, but obviously more difficult or more expensive to install. We'll get into map details. We'll look at the maps and how they relate to what's actually installed. And we'll check out some of the detailed nomenclature and data that's contained in them, and look at one neighborhood example. Then we'll get into the infrastructure, which are essentially the pipes and the structures at the end of the pipes and the kind of the containment structures. And if we aggregate those, we can get a pretty good view of all the assets that we're responsible for and size those. And we'll also look at one particular dam or weir and see what the function is, so we can get a little bit of a feel for that as an example. How do we use this stuff? So how's this stuff relevant? There's two areas. One is in the reserves, to establish the reserve requirements. It's useful to do that. And the other one is to use as a baseline for any repair work that needs to be done. And then lastly, there's a suggestion or possible considerations for 6 budget categories to help size and help manage the finances related to this. Keep in mind that this discussion is about understanding available information. It's not about how to fix drainage problems. That's out of scope, but certainly will be the subject. This is a master map of the community. We'll use it as a base layer. Notice that the numbers, the house numbers, are readable. So this map can be used with the other maps which do not have house numbers on them. Here is the outline of Unit 1, which is at the A1A entrance. That was followed shortly by the country club area, or really concurrently with that. Then followed by units 2 and 3, all of which have swales as drainage systems, and that comprises a total of 360 lots. And here's the rest of the community. The roads and drainage maps will be overlaid on the structure that you just saw. And here it is for Unit 1. Note that Unit 1 actually has 3 different sections to it. And here's the country club and Units 2 and 3. And that again comprises the total of 360 lots, which have the swale system. And this is what the map configuration looks like for the rest of the community, which is served by gutters and curbs. The villas were not included in the main map. They are described in one engineering map and comprising units 15, 16, and 17, as shown here on the main map. In addition, there were several home sites added after the major development, for a total of 663 lots, all of which are built out with the exception of about 30 at the moment. A quick discussion of swales versus gutters and curbs. The sections with swales are highlighted here. That's what they look like. There were various ways owners dealt with drainage issues on their property, some of which were quite interesting and creative. Here are the sections that are served by gutters and curbs. Pretty straightforward and much cleaner than the swale drainage systems. Next, we'll look at the map details. Submitted between January 1987 and May 1988, and still very much usable. Topography doesn't change very much over time. This is an actual map overlaid on Part 1A, we call it, as part of Unit 1. And that's what it looks like. And here's the sample neighborhood we'll be investigating to get a feel for the information that's on the maps. That's what it looks like. And here are the details we'll be looking at. The pipes and structures, as well as the water flows and calculations associated with that. This is a pipe that allows water to flow under Marsh Point Circle in this case, and then into the marsh through the easement. The little arrows indicate the direction of intended water flow. These are the elevations. And these are the slopes as calculated from the distance between a couple points and the elevation. So we have established the direction of water flow on one side of the street, as well as the other side. So we have the general direction of water flow. And note that in this section, it also includes a break in red where the water starts flowing in the opposite direction. Let's look at the infrastructure and the assets that are actually indicated on the maps. Some of the maps have a schedule, so you can just translate the schedule onto a spreadsheet of some kind. Some of them you actually have to dig it out from the map. But ultimately you end up with a spreadsheet which lists the pipes as well as the structures. Pipes, there are a total of 172 pipes identified, comprising almost 13,000 linear feet. Virtually all of them are reinforced concrete. They range from 15 to 24 inches, the preponderance of them. Now these structures are a little bit more interesting on a relative scale, of course. There are 5 major types. The mitered end sections, they look like that. The curb inlets, pretty straightforward. Another type of structure is it's basically a cement box with holes in it for pipes, and generally a grid at the top for water to flow in. They're officially called ditch bottom inlets, or DBIs, as indicated on the map. Would you believe? That's the official name. And they look like that. Sans the pelican. End walls. They're just straight cuts at the end of the pipe. And then we have control structures. They're very customized and really designed specifically for a certain type of control. The structures so far can really, including the pipes, really lend themselves to aggregation for generalized pricing purposes. But control structures have to be really looked at individually. Some examples. Here is the one that's being worked on currently at the 18th tee. Let's look at one of the weirs in detail. It's called S78 or Structure 78, which is the nomenclature they use on the maps. Now, weir S78 controls most of the water inside Marsh Point Circle, and we have the pipes, of course, and the control and the other structures feeding the ponds inside that circle, and then directing the flows directed ultimately into that control structure. These are the details of the specifications that were shown on the lower left on the prior slide. And this is what it looks like during the dry period. And this is after heavy rain. So what can we do with all this stuff? One area is the reserves. Through a fairly high level of inventory, we can determine the valuation of the assets and the replacement costs and the replacement cycles by categorizing them. And then we can get a pretty detailed picture of the drainage design that can be used as a base for addressing the problem area, the hot spots that we identify over time. And then lastly, the data can help with the budgeting process by looking at all of those components. Budget categories: pipes, low maintenance, long life. Structures, a little bit more maintenance because of the accumulation of debris. Control structures, very individualized. Swirl hotspots need some definitions and qualifications for federal systems or the ones that the board decides to take on. Swirl beautification possibly provide some guidelines for consistency in the future. And then lastly, the mechanical and electrical pipes need to be addressed and sized and maintained.